Nice to meet you.
You too. Yeah. Thanks for reaching out. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Yeah. You seem like you'd be a good person to interview.
Well, hopefully.
Yeah. Thanks a lot for taking the time. I appreciate it. Where are you located?
I'm in New York. I just moved here like 2 months ago.
Okay.
So very new to the city. I moved from Singapore. So I've been in
Oh,
Singapore for like the last 6 years.
it's not a bad place to be.
No, it's a great city.
Do you like it?
Very different from Singapore though. I like it. Yeah, I'm warming up to it.
Today, my guest is Thor Schaeff, a developer relations engineer at ElevenLabs. ElevenLabs is an AI audio company with a platform that enables developers and creators to generate ultra realistic multilingual speech, clone voices, and build fully interactive voice experiences, including music, sound effects, and voice agents. Before joining ElevenLabs, Thor led developer relations at Supabase, an open source backend database platform. He was also an engineer and developer advocate at Stripe, a global payments infrastructure company that provides tools for sending and receiving payments and managing financial operations. Thor, thanks so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Brendan. Appreciate it.
I'd love to learn more about ElevenLabs. First of all, why is the company named ElevenLabs? Where does that name come from?
Yeah, that's a good one. And actually I believe there's a couple of myths around like even internally in the company. Now, as far as I know, it's actually kind of a hat tip to Spinal Tap. If you've seen
Oh,
kind of the mockumentary,
mhm.
the amplifier, it goes up to 11.
I didn't
So
know that. That's great.
yeah, yeah. Well, so I mean, that's kind of one metaphor, but like
Yeah.
obviously as well, it's sort of kind of this idea of going above and beyond, kind of what we've had, sort of like 10,
Right.
being the max, and now we're going
Yeah.
beyond to 11, and especially also looking at kind of the quality of speech synthesis and models. Obviously the field of synthetic speech generation has been, very long. The history around it is, quite long. And so now we're sort of with AI and, the research that the team is doing, kind of going above and beyond to 11.
Oh, I love that. That's a great explanation of that name. I am familiar with that movie. So, where's Eleven Labs based?
Yeah, it's interesting. So it is pretty distributed and remote. Where we actually just had our company offsite last week in Italy, and so we got everyone together, almost everyone, I think, and it was roughly 330 people now, which is wild because like when I joined in January, just 9 months ago, we were a third of that. So like the growth this year has been incredible. Not just obviously in terms of employees, but like also revenue, users, developers on the platform. So our founders are Polish, right? So Matti and Peter are Polish high school friends. And if you've kind of read sort of the history of ElevenLabs, it's actually sort of rooted in Polish childhood trauma, in the sense that, dubbing of Hollywood movies in Poland is sort of very rudimentary, if you want to say. So there would basically be one speaker that would do all the different characters. And they wouldn't really, emphasize sort of the different characters and emotions and kind of scenes. It was just kind of one monotone voice sort of doing all the characters, including the
Mhm.
dog coming in, same person, woof, woof. So I think from like that childhood trauma, when the technology came to a point where we can actually clone voices, and basically have them speak in various different languages.
Right.
So that is kind of where ElevenLabs was born, sort of this idea of like, hey, now we can actually make all these Hollywood movies available, in any language and any voice. So
Right.
that is sort of roughly the mission that ElevenLabs started with. And so, yeah, that is kind of where ElevenLabs is coming from, headquartered somewhat in London.
Oh,
So kind of a European, one of the European sort of AI unicorns. So yeah, we have sort of headquartered in London, but then offices here in New York, in San Francisco, in Warsaw, in Dublin now as well, in Tokyo, and Bangalore, I think. Yeah, so pretty crazy growth globally at the moment.
That's amazing. High level, what is the ElevenLabs platform?
Yeah, high level. So it is, well, maybe we can go zoom out a little bit. So ElevenLabs is both a research and a deployment company.
Oh,
so
okay.
that means we actually have a research team that develops and trains these models. So we actually create our own models and we train our own models, and that is, where we take a lot of pride in sort of the most realistic, most human-like voices across a huge catalog of different languages. And so, obviously started with kind of voices. We do have sound effects as well. We have transcription, one of kind of the most accurate sort of speech to text models. So ASR models, automatic speech recognition. So basically we can, throw any sort of audio in there and it will transcribe it across 99 different languages with very high accuracy. We have the sound effects model, the music model now as well. So you can see how kind of the models are now blurring over as well, because so the latest speech model, the V3 model, actually can generate sound effects as well as like laughter and, like shouting or sirens or what have you. So within the speech, so you can kind of use these brackets to sort of direct the voice to, for example, whisper or like shout or, what have you, but then also put sound effects into it. And on the other side, the music model has obviously speech in it because there's vocals, the model is singing. And so ultimately, our research is kind of moving into that direction where we have one omni audio model that can basically generate anything audio. So that's the research side. And then what we do is, we also deploy these models for our developers to use. So that's kind of the developer platform side of things that I work on. But then also we build on top applications for the media and entertainment industry to use these, without writing any code. And so, as you can see, a very broad set of things that we work on, including a very broad set of users that we work with. Yeah.
So that leads me to my next question. How would you segment the users of the platform? You mentioned developers, you mentioned users within the media industry, but who are the other users/customers?
Yeah. So generally, and historically, sort of media and entertainment was kind of the target audience, the biggest chunk of folks using it. Anything from like generating audiobooks. So like, for example, we also have an audiobook publishing platform, which is kind of an end consumer product called ElevenReader. So ElevenReader is actually an end consumer app that anyone out there can use to basically turn any text into speech. But then also, with that, we've built kind of this publishing platform. So for example, the First Lady, Melania Trump, has cloned her voice to then generate an audiobook from her book that she's written. And so that is published on kind of our audiobook platform, for example. Yeah, and I mean, so those kind of creators, audiobook, but then obviously the media and entertainment industry, in the sense that, we work with a lot of the podcast and YouTube creators. So Lex Friedman, the Huberman podcast. You might have seen some of the interviews that Lex Friedman did with Modi, where, kind of the interview was made available in Hindi, in English, and different languages. So that is sort of the dubbing side of things, where media and entertainment and, YouTube creators, podcast creators use these tools to make their content available in other languages to tap into more audiences, obviously. So that, I guess, is maybe sort of the historic, more established audience of non-developers on the platform, more sort of focused on the media and entertainment industry as a kind of software as a service tool. Now, beyond that, the developer audience, obviously there is a lot of tools actually built for media and entertainment, tools like CapCut's kind of AI video editing, captions, 𝗖cie𝗂𝗿𝗀𝗀, which is sort of this AI video generator and media editing suite. And so a lot of these software as a service tools for, again, creators, media and entertainment, they utilize our APIs to bring voices, to bring audio into their applications. So that is maybe some of the more kind of enterprise users or some of the larger sort of developers that are building with this. You also have individual developers like Peter Levels, kind of this indie hacker, indie entrepreneur who's built kind of photo AI and is now moving into video generation as well, where he brings voices into kind of these videos that are generated. And so beyond that, that is kind of broadly sort of the static media assets, right, that are being created either on sort of our platform and our applications, our software as a service, but then also the APIs sort of in static kind of generation of audio. But now we're kind of going beyond that with the agents use case, so real-time conversation. So conversational agents, and here now the user base becomes a lot different again, because like a big use case for conversational agents is kind of a support and sales use case. So we're seeing a lot of these kind of enterprise companies that have kind of support use cases where telephone support, so basically conversational agents integrated into telephony is kind of a big use case there. But then also what we've seen actually, which was one of my favorite use cases for conversational agents. So we've worked with Epic to bring Darth Vader into Fortnite. So this was a pretty wild collaboration where Disney exclusively licensed the voice clone of Darth Vader to Epic to use within the Fortnite game. And so you could actually get basically Darth Vader as a player to join your team, but it wasn't, an actual player behind it. It was an AI, but you could talk to it with the voice clone of James Earl Jones. So we worked with their estate to clone the voice. And so you can see, beyond kind of the classic support sales sort of use cases in media, in creative technology, this is kind of starting to become a thing as well, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, it seems like the use cases are just growing these days. I'd love to talk about some of the specific tools within the creative platform. Is it called is it ElevenMusic? Is that the tool?
Yeah, correct.
Okay, so I'm actually most interested in this. I'm a musician, so I'm like really intrigued with this. So let's say I needed to create music for an advertisement. I can use the music generator. I can create music. I saw that I could download it. I have my MP3. I can use that. What's the licensing around the usage of the music that you create with the generator?
Yeah, so this is quite interesting because actually it is an industry first in that it is a fully licensed model. So what that means is we actually fully licensed all the training data. So we actually worked with the music labels, with our music label partners, to fully license their catalog of music to train the model on. So we were very specific, and maybe this is because we're a European company and like to follow the rules. So we were very specific in that we wanted to do it the right way and not train on copyrighted data that we don't have a license for. So we specifically approached the music industry and our label partners and licensed their catalog to train the model on. So initially we thought, because we have only a limited amount of data available to train the model, it would be more kind of focused on like soundscapes, kind of background music, sort of those scenarios, which are obviously very, very useful in the media and entertainment industry. But actually, as we were kind of training the model more, we realized that it actually gets very close to, creating full songs and music that actually sort of is artistic in its own sense. And so we're very happy with that. But what that means, because the training data is fully licensed, as long as you're on a paid plan. And I think actually you have to be on a paid plan at the moment to access the music model. You can use your generations commercially in your applications, in your videos. So basically anything that you generate, you own the rights to, which is pretty special kind of, industry first here.
Wow, that's amazing. So what does that mean, your music partners? Like a record label like Sony or something like that, for example. You partner with them, they give you what? The entire catalog of audio files, and then what does the training data actually look like?
Yeah, pretty much that is that. It is an entire catalog of songs. Now, it is not Sony. It is, as you can imagine, probably not some of the major labels, but we basically worked with some of the music industry partners to license big parts of their catalog to train the model on. And so that is actually that. Yeah, it is music files that are fed into the model, into training runs to, then generate a model that, based on text prompts, can generate stems as well as full songs, depending on what you're prompting it to do.
Yeah, I was playing with it quite a bit. It's pretty cool. Any sense how big that training data is? Like, how many songs are in the training data? Do you know?
I personally do not know. I don't think that is public knowledge. So that is one thing with kind of the proprietary models. So all our models are currently closed because there's a good amount of innovation in there that we're just not ready to sort of open source just yet. So yeah, I'm afraid I cannot give kind of details to like the magnitude of training data or kind of details within the model.
Maybe you can answer this question. What actually, I guess at a high level, what's happening in the application when I submit a prompt, create a funk music jam with slap bass, whatever it is? It generates music. I can listen to it. I can download it. What's happening? Like, what is it doing? How is it interpreting that prompt? And this gets into a little bit of how the model works, I suppose.
Yeah.
But can you talk about that process a little bit at a high level? Like, what's actually happening?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, at a high level, so basically the way kind of the training works with data is that the data is labeled in the sense of like there's a lot of metadata that is basically fed into the model in terms of like, okay, so this is, classical music, this epoch, sort of, like kind of all the metadata that, you have around sort of the music. And with that, the model basically generates kind of certain weights that know kind of what certain types of music, styles of music look like in the waveform. And so in a way, it's kind of like that, if you're familiar with kind of the transformer architecture, where it sort of predicts, what the next, if you have like a text-based LLM, it doesn't actually know sort of the knowledge or any reasoning or whatever. It basically just predicts based on the training data what is the most likely next sort of text string that should come. And so similar to that, the model basically predicts, what should the audio waveform of sort of this look like based on your text prompt. And so there's a couple steps underneath where actually like it writes the lyrics. So, kind of based on the text input, it actually uses an LLM under the hood to kind of write the lyrics. And then it basically puts that together with like the melodic style. So I guess the lyrics are somewhat separate of like, the lyrics aren't actually that important in terms of the audio waveform. It's more sort of the characteristics that are basically represented in the text prompt. And then the model kind of predicts, what's sort of the next set of waves that should come in the audio sequence. Yeah, it's pretty pretty wild.
That's cool. Yeah, you explained that really well. So instead of like with a text-based LLM, that predicts the next word, the next token.
Yeah,
Here, you're predicting the next part of the waveform.
basically, yeah,
Yeah,
at a high level.
That's interesting. I don't know if you're a musician or not,
Yeah.
but okay. So this question might be more meaningful. How do you feel about creating music with AI? And what do you tell musicians who are skeptical of this?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question, and like with any technology, right? Like, I mean, you could say that about like recording studios, and if you look at the movement from like analog recording technology to like digital and kind of what
Right.
all came with
Right.
that. So we like to see it as a tool and work obviously with a lot of creatives. Same on the speech synthesis side. So we work with in an incredible marketplace of voice actors to actually clone their voices and pay them royalties when their voice clones are being used.
Right.
And so similar to that, we basically want to make this a collaborative tool that is useful to the creative industry. We're not looking to replace the artist.
Right.
And I think one example that was pretty cool here as well. So at our offsite, some of the research team and some of the folks that worked on the music model, they did a DJ set. And they were still there, like actually mixing the songs together. But
Yeah.
the actual like songs were generated by the model. But it is used as a kind of a creative tool for the output. And I think I at least hope that artists also view this as a tool that they can use where, maybe they can't sort of afford that like string plugin in their workflow, or can't afford to hire kind of a quartet of, violinists. And so they could prompt a stem that they can then import into kind of their workflow. And so we're very much hoping that this can be a tool that enables artists to create more art, ideally.
Okay. Another tool. I like that. Let's talk about text to speech, or if I want to create a podcast from text, something like that. So I can create or train a custom voice. I saw there were a lot of kind of preloaded voices. I can create a custom voice.
Yeah, so we have this tool, it's called the voice design, that actually allows you to describe a voice. And it'll then generate that based on your text prompt. Again, similar process where basically based on all the training data and like the different accents and, different pitch and range and what have you, the model basically knows what, the waveform for these different characteristics looks like, and can then, based on that, kind of remix a new voice that you can then use. And so maybe the way you can think about it is like if you're familiar with kind of embeddings, vectors. So basically embeddings in the world of AI are a way to kind of take semantic and meaning from, for example, text or images, what have you, and encode that into, basically computer speech, which is just a long array of numbers with various different dimensions. And all these vectors in these different dimensions are basically just encoding characteristics of, some semantics, some meaning, some characteristic. And so, for example, when we do the voice cloning as well, we basically look at kind of all the different characteristics of your voice, and we generate this embedding, basically this long vector of many, many dimensions that encodes what makes your voice, your pitch, your accent, your range, your pausing, kind of pacing, kind of all these characteristics of your voice. And so because we have all this knowledge of like all these different dimensions of characteristics of what voices sound like, we can then go from a text prompt where we basically now turn the semantic of the kind of English language of describing a characteristic of a voice into an embedding of like what that voice would sound like. And then the model itself doesn't really sound like anything. The model itself just knows the different languages. So it's kind of a multilingual model. And so it basically knows all
Yeah.
the different phonemes, like the smallest audio units of every language. So it knows
I
what
see.
these sound like. And then you basically overlay kind of this embedding of the characteristic of your voice onto that model that knows how to generate the different phonemes for the different languages. And now suddenly your voice can speak all these different languages, right? And so that is kind of roughly on a high level how that works. Yeah.
That's fascinating. So I can clone my own voice, right, in the platform. I saw the option. How much of my own audio do you need to do a good job cloning my voice?
Yeah, it depends. So like if you really want kind of what we call a professional voice clone,
Yeah.
that gets very, very close to like what you actually sound like, including kind of the pitch and the range. You ideally want like at least 30 minutes of kind of high quality
Okay.
audio. 2 hours even better, but like depending on how much kind of high quality audio you have. And you want it to be in the style that you want the voice clone to talk, like as well.
Yeah.
So like if it's more of kind of a conversational, like we're having here a chat, then you also kind of want that input data to be kind of like that. If you
Right.
want it to be more
Right.
kind of, like radio newscaster, then you would kind of, try and find that resembling audio, because the voice clone then gets very similar to that training data. Yeah.
If you provide more and more audio samples, does it actually get better, or is there a limit? Like let's say I provided 80 hours of my voice, is it that much better, that much closer to my actual voice, or is there sort of a limit?
That's a good question. I'm not entirely sure if there's a point where it actually gets worse. No, but generally we say like sort of 30 minutes to 2 hours is kind of the sweet spot for the professional voice clone. Yeah.
And I imagine you've done this many times with your own voice.
Yeah, you can actually find me on the platform if you put in German engineer.
Oh.
So I'm originally from Germany.
Oh, that's you.
Yeah, if you put in German engineer, you will find my voice clone. And yeah, I encourage you to use it extensively, because I do get the royalties for that as well.
That's cool. All right, and the models you're using on the back end, these are all ElevenLabs models.
Yeah, correct. So the audio models that we use are all our own creation. So yeah,
Okay.
ElevenLabs, the research company, and then we take our models and deploy them for people to use.
So now I want to talk about the agents platform.
Yeah.
I played around with it a little bit. I know this is pretty new. High level, what kind of agents can I create in the platform?
Yeah, I mean, there's pretty much anything under the sun that you can imagine that's sort of a real-time conversational use case. So probably the one funny use case that I set up is actually using my voice clone, I created an agent for my grandmother to call and just talk to. Because like I'm in a different time zone from her, and so sometimes she just kind of wants to talk to me. She knows obviously it's a clone, so I told her that. But like it's funny because like I can listen to the recordings of like the conversations, and she would just go on and like tell me about her day, and that is interesting. So I guess kind of the companion use case is quite interesting. So there are actually a good amount of folks now also building sort of companions for the elderly, or kind of voice agents for the elderly. So like if you're looking at some of the F.Inc. kind of companies in San Francisco that are building, kind of companion robots that the elderly can talk to, which is interesting because, I mean, hopefully sort of my utopia of sort of all this AI stuff is that it actually gives us so much efficiencies that we can now go back and like have the time to talk to our elderly. So yeah, otherwise, I think I mentioned it before, sort of the support, sales, qualification. So outbound sales is actually a big one there as well, where you have a list of unqualified leads, and you basically have the agent call 1,000 leads at the same time and collect information about them to qualify the leads. And so, that is something that actually the agent can do very well. And, we can process kind of the transcript of the call in the post-processing, and then, run sort of other workflows on top of that. So there is a huge demand at the moment for kind of these real-time conversational agents.
How do I deploy the agents? Let's say I create an agent in the platform. Then what? Can I download the agent? Where can I deploy it? On a website, in an app, on my phone?
Yeah, so that is kind of a special thing about our agents platform. We actually fully host these agents end to end for you. What this means is you can then sort of take the agent, you can connect it to a phone number, for example, using Twilio or SIP trunking kind of providers, to put a phone number in front of it. And you don't actually need to host the infrastructure yourself. So we kind of take care of the infra side of things, scaling the agent up. So you can then just focus on importing it into your websites, your mobile apps, your hardware devices, your glasses, which are now becoming conversational, your toasters, your fridges, your what have you. So there's a lot of client libraries and components that we provide for developers to make it easy for them to integrate the real-time agents into their applications.
So if I'm building an app and I want to use an agent that I built in ElevenLabs, I use like some kind of API, I can pull the agent into my app.
Yeah, exactly. So say, you have a web app, for example, there's a widget that you could import. That's kind of the easiest way.
Oh.
So you basically just copy a snippet of HTML, and then you have like the widget in the website, and everything's taken care for you. If you want to customize that more, so we have JavaScript SDKs, React SDKs, kind of depending on how you're building your applications. And then you can, basically what you do is you need your agent ID and your API key, and you generate kind of this short-lived token, which you then pass to the client, which is, the browser, for example. And then the browser can initiate that real-time connection to the ElevenLabs service. So that's really nice. It gets you started very quickly. And then, you can use it kind of across your applications and your telephony use cases.
I imagine if I'm a user of a company, I've built a bunch of agents, I've deployed them in different ways. Can I track all the usage of my agents? Like over time, I can see how often it's been used. I can see incoming text, analytics of any kind. Can I view all of that?
Yeah, so we've built kind of the agent platform, app sort of around it. So you have an interface that you can, as kind of a workspace team, you can share with the team. You can look at the transcripts, the conversations, the logs, there is like tools as well to write kind of tests based on certain, use cases where, function calling, tool calling, right? Because there's a lot of things as well, like the knowledge base that you want to add in. There's a lot of kind of functionality, and it all sort of lives, the monitoring within sort of that ElevenLabs agents dashboard.
From your perspective, what are like some of the most exciting new features in the ElevenLabs platform? Is there anything that jumps out like that you're truly excited about, or maybe it's coming soon?
I mean, there's a bunch of stuff that's being worked on. I talked about it a little bit, sort of that idea of kind of this omni model, right? That can kind of generate anything audio. So basically that will be the last, because now we're like on 11v3. So eventually there will be the last version, and the model will just keep getting better and better. That is sort of roughly one side that the research team is working on. The other side on kind of the real-time conversational models, you might have heard that with like OpenAI real-time and, kind of Gemini Live. There's now these models that don't actually go through text anymore, that are actually conversational, in itself,
Right.
like a real human. And so that's what we kind of call sort of these full duplex models. So they
Oh, I
go
see.
kind of from sound to sound
Yeah.
without kind of transcribing. And so ultimately, the goal sort of here is that, it's just like we're having a conversation. If I tell you a joke, ideally, if it's a good joke, you will laugh at the punchline, right?
Right.
And so that is the same idea, that the model is actually able to, like, in real time react to, both like the emotion and the sarcasm. Right now, like, sarcasm doesn't translate into like text
Right.
as much. So there's a lot of weight and emotion that is carried in your voice. And so ultimately, kind of within that, that is the future that we're working towards, that these conversational models are really, like a real person reacting to what you're saying and how you're saying it as well.
Yeah. I'd like to talk a little bit more about you and your role as a developer advocate, also your journey. But I'm
Mhm.
thinking about the fact that you're so focused on this audio platform. Like, do you have a background in audio or music production or any of that? And how has that helped you in your current role?
Yeah, that's a good point. So I mean, I do. So I'm a musician myself. I play the guitar, I play the bass.
Mhm.
I sing very terribly. But I used to have a band kind of back home in Germany during my university days, and
Yeah.
we produced some albums. They're still on Spotify. I'm not going to plug them because, long time ago. But so I do have kind of a background roughly in, some sort of music education in terms of like music theory, but then also kind of digital music production and like
Okay.
editing and so yeah, is it helpful? So I personally don't work on the research
Yeah.
models. So that is kind of a different level of visitry, obviously, where, like, I mean, some of the top musicians are also like top mathematicians, right? Like music and math are very
Yeah.
sort of closely related.
Mhm.
But these are kind of genius level people. For me, it's more like I appreciate kind of the work that goes into it. I think for me, sort of where my sort of sweet spot is, and that's what I really love about ElevenLabs is kind of the combination of like languages, audio, APIs, and AI. It's
Yeah.
kind of all sort of these different topics that I'm really excited about. And that's what we're kind of bringing together here. Interestingly enough, like the audio engineering background is actually not that relevant. Like
Okay.
a lot of that is abstracted away in kind of the
Mhm.
APIs and sort of the client libraries and the ergonomics, so that any developer ideally can make use of this. But yeah, I think like if you're looking at like the actual infrastructure and research and like the team that is deploying kind of training the models, but then also deploying the models and kind of the optimization and infrastructure there is probably quite helpful to understand sort of the different audio codecs and sort of
Oh, yeah.
the difference in kind of the bit rates and the quality and what. For me, that's like I appreciate it. I roughly know kind of what it means in terms of like different frequencies and quality and codecs, but yeah, I only know it kind of on a high level. And for me, it's not so relevant. For me, it's more kind of the developer experience of, even a developer who's, just kind of building websites should be able to use this within their
Yeah.
products.
It does seem like knowledge of music, especially if you're a musician, can help you use the platform, though, especially for generating music, right? Like if
Yeah.
I know what I'm asking for, I can
Mhm.
make prompt more detailed. I want this type of music. I want this instrumentation. I want this length intro, this type of lyric. Like that is certainly helpful as a
Yeah.
user.
No, that's for sure. And actually now sort of like understanding how to prompt for like success is
Yeah.
kind of a skill in itself. So yeah, I think having that knowledge can
Yeah.
definitely help you in terms of like communicating with the model and prompting it to like successful results. Yeah.
Okay, so you're a developer relations engineer. What does that mean? Like, what's your main job?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's something that I think as a developer relations engineer, you ask yourself every day, what is my main job?
I
There's a
ask
lot
myself
of
that every day too. So
yeah, there's a lot of different hats involved, which is
yeah.
exciting about this role. So I roughly like to see it as kind of four pillars. So one being kind of the product experience, and for us that's the APIs, the client libraries, and sort of that product feedback loop, because we're just very close to the user, the developer, the customer, the community, where, we see how is the user actually using the product, where are they struggling, where's their issues. And so we compile all that and we bring that back to the product team. And so we work very closely with the product and infrastructure teams to make the developer experience, for the end developer who's integrating this into the application as delightful and easy as possible. So that's sort of the product pillar. Then you have kind of the content pillar. And so there's, content like the documentation, the API reference, the tutorials, and, these can be written tutorials, these can be video guides. So anything that is sort of content in terms of, and there's kind of two dimensions within that. So one is sort of the broader awareness piece. So creating content about, hey, this feature exists. So making people aware of what we're doing. And then there is the education piece where basically now they are aware. Now we need to educate them. How can they sort of achieve what they are looking to build with, these tools? And so that is sort of the content pillar. And then we have kind of the community pillar. So that is, anything from like hackathons, events. We just ran an event yesterday at our office as well. We're having another one, kind of AI lightning talks on Thursday. So, building kind of this community of people that are engaged with your product, that use it, that run hackathons themselves, that create content themselves. So that, building that community. And then sort of the fourth one is kind of the partnership side of things. So partnering with, the Vercells, the Lovables, the Black Box AI, the tools that actually the developers use to build their products.
Right.
Partnering with these to basically get, more distribution, partnering on hackathons and events as well, getting integrated into their frameworks and client libraries. And so kind of meeting the developer where they are, because obviously, we have a lot of different flavors of developers, game developers as well, as like, it's an entire category in itself with entire different tools and development environments and such. And so that is roughly sort of the four pillars that I see. So every day is a different day. So there's a lot of content creation and, documentation, examples, but then also events, potentially traveling to events to also do workshops and conferences. And so ideally you find a balance of like the online content and the in-person events. You kind of need both. But yeah, it's a difficult balance to strike.
Do you focus on any one of these areas in particular? Like, I don't know, the partnerships or the education or the online tutorial? Are you doing all of it?
Yeah, like everyone in the team kind of does all of it with like different weights. So some people on the team are just more in the weeds of the APIs and the client libraries and that side of things. So I'm a bit more of a consumer of that and just providing the feedback and, making sure, but not actually working on the client libraries myself that much. So there's, some of the team that is more focused on that developer experience piece. For me personally, it's more sort of the content community partnerships that I focus on, which is still a good amount of the pillars. Yeah.
So do you like manage a team of other developer advocates, or do you work alone? And what does the overall team look like? Like the team of developer advocates?
Yeah, so we are a team of like, I guess, 4.5 or something. So I think the interesting thing is because there's so many different dimensions and kind of what we do. Yeah, team is interesting because it's very cross-functional. But I think roughly, yeah, it's kind of a team of 4 now. We're hiring as well. You know, it's the growth is pretty significant. Yes, but so within that, we basically look at kind of different parts of the product, different initiatives, different focus areas, and then we kind of track sort of our North Stars that we track is sort of that awareness piece. So how many developers are signing up on the platform, and then also the active developers. So like how many of these people that are become aware of the product are actually becoming active users on the platform.
I see.
And so that is roughly kind of what we're tracking and the different, team initiatives that we do. And then, yeah, we're pretty globally distributed. Some of us in Europe, some of us here in the US. And then, yeah, we're looking to put some folks into Asia as well later in the year.
So you previously worked at Supabase. First, tell me about Supabase. What is it? And then what did your role look like there?
Yeah, so Supabase is kind of, well, I mean, it started out as sort of the open source Firebase alternative. So kind of backend as a service, database, infrastructure, file storage, authentication, kind of all these different bits and bobs that, you need when you're building an application. And it's fully open source. It's built on top of Postgres, one of sort of the best, longest standing open source databases out there. And so really it was kind of built on this idea of like, we really like the developer experience of Firebase. It's super easy to get started, great tools. But, we'd like it for it to be open source. And so that is sort of what Supabase was built around. It started actually during COVID, kind of early 2020 in Singapore. So my friends were starting kind of working on this in Singapore. I initially just kind of mentored and sort of applied some of my learnings from my Stripe days. QS. Then I invested in the seed round and then later joined with the Series A. So I was kind of there from sort of 800 databases to kind of 2 million databases on the platform. So very sort of like, 2 people to, actually good question, how many, maybe 100 when I left earlier this year. But yeah, Supabase has seen incredible growth, also fueled by, the vibe coders coming online, the new sort of breed of builders that aren't necessarily developers, but they need, a backend, they need a database. And so Supabase just made it really accessible for people kind of across any skill levels to leverage sort of the power of Postgres. And so, yeah, a lot of it was very, very similar. So similar pillars that I was working across. Again, sort of roughly where I see my mission, personally is like, I help developers build. And so, I'm a developer myself. So like, I try to make it as easy for me to like use these tools. And as a, byproduct, that means that for other developers, it also becomes easy. And so sort of sharing this journey of like, and I love to learn new things. And then the best way of learning things is like teaching as well. So I love that kind of when I had this aha moment of like, I learned something new, to then go out and like give that to others and kind of have that impact on them and like enable them to sort of build the things that they are looking to build. So that's kind of sort of the common thread throughout kind of what I've been working on.
How did you make the jump from building backend database as a service at Supabase to AI audio?
Yeah, it's a good question. So, I mean, funnily enough, I don't think it's that far-fetched because so I actually think that voice is sort of the next big interface. And I think like how sort of 10 years ago, we were, mobile was like the next thing. And like everyone was like starting to build mobile apps and like mobile websites and sort of the next big interface is voice. And it's just so natural for us to talk to devices. And so I think with that in mind, I think like people will sort of think about the voice of their application, similar to like their brand design. So they'll like design a voice for their app. And ultimately, I think they'll sort of, hopefully we'll get to the point where people are like, oh, I'm excited to like talk to this app, like they are looking forward to like talking to your application. And so I think for me, it was like, I'm German originally. My wife is Taiwanese. I spent a good amount of time living in Singapore. So there's a lot of different languages sort of in my life. And so the mission of ElevenLabs of kind of bridging all these different languages, and then also audio, APIs, AI, is kind of all these topics that I'm very, very excited about. And I think, from sort of my broken, music star career days, I was also intrigued by, kind of being closer to the music and media industry. And so, yeah, it's a pretty incredible package, some incredible people as well. And also it's a European company, which I think also played a factor in kind of why I joined.
That makes a lot of sense. Do you think you're in the training data? Is any of your music in the training data?
Oh, I don't think so. No, our label wasn't, we basically used one of these online labels just to be able to get onto Spotify back in the day. Yeah.
Are you ready for the lightning round?
Yeah, sure.
30 seconds each.
Okay.
Piece of technology you can't live without.
Probably Google Maps, actually. Like I'm a sucker for maps. Like I love to travel. So yeah.
That's a good one. A developer's tool you can't live without.
Well, probably I should say Supabase.
Yeah.
But I think more recently Cursor is just wild. Yeah.
Most underrated skill in developer relations.
I think like being a polyglot and like speaking a lot of different languages, it goes a long way in like connecting with a global developer audience. Yeah.
Favorite project you've worked on recently?
So we actually just released some open source UI components to help folks build conversational agents faster in their applications. So that's a really cool project that folks should check out.
What's your favorite band right now?
Right now, there's also a lot of different ones. I'm still a sucker for the Cat Empire. I love that. That's always good fun.
I don't know what that
Aussie band, just pure joy. Yeah, the Cat Empire.
I see it. Yeah. Australian jazz and funk.
Yeah.
An interesting activity you do outside of work.
Yeah, I mean, I'm huge into ocean canoeing, so outrigger canoe. Especially like my team in Singapore, like we go out like early in the morning, canoe into the sunrise around like the southern islands of Singapore. I'm lucky as well. There's a team here, like just a 10-minute cycle from me on the Hudson. So it's not the ocean, but it's, New York's best version of the ocean that's right within the city. So it's really cool that we can do it here in the city as well.
Great. That was great. Really appreciate it. Nice meeting you.
You too. Yeah. Thanks, Brandon.
All right. Have a good rest of the day and rest of the week, and I'll talk to you soon.
You too.
All right.
See ya. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching. If you like this, be sure to subscribe. More interviews and demos coming soon.